Ela está falando alto. Ok.
Ok. Lilia, você me ouve também? Fala a referência de áudio para mim. 2, 1, 2, falando para teste. Ok, contagem regressiva em 10. Quando eu falar 2, já está com você, ok? 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Duratex Day. My name is Milena Machado. I'm a journalist and MC, and I have the honor, the huge satisfaction to conduct this event with you. This morning, you will see the results of Duratex and also the strategies of the company for the next years. Also, you'll have the opportunity to have a conversation, a sincere, very transparent conversation with the executives of the company who will be ready in a meeting room via Zoom to answer all your questions and also comment. And for this, from this very moment, you can send your comments and your questions. If you're watching via YouTube, you can open your mobile and you point to the QR code in the video. You see this, you will immediately be led to the site of the event. If you're in the site, so you can ask your questions and answers. Now, in the site, you can directly access the site www.duratexday.com.br. And you can use the QR code and access directly. Here in the site, you can write your comments. Tá cortando. So you can, I'm waiting for your questions and answers in our round table, in our questions answer. This is going to happen in the second half of this event.
Alô, som? Vocês me ouvem bem? Para teste. Esse é o novo normal, né?
So this is the new normal. We tested and we rehearsed for hours before. Now, can everybody hear me? So let's start again. I think it's worth beginning again. So let's do it. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to, yes, now Duratex Day. It's a pleasure. I am Milena, I'm a journalist and MC, and I have the honor to conduct this event this morning. And you will learn all about the results of Duratex and the strategies of the company for the next years. Also, you'll have the opportunity to have a conversation, an open, transparent conversation with the executives of the company. Because the event is separated in two parts. It's divided into parts, and I will tell you our agenda. As for now, I would like to tell you how to do this participation. You can send your questions and answers via the Send Your Question button if you're already watching us at the site of the event's transmission. If you're seeing us, if you're following us in YouTube, you can open your mobile, click on the QR code, and then you'll be automatically directed to this site. In case you want to do it directly, I will give you the address, www.duratexday.com.br. And when you download on the site of the event, you will see a button right with Send Your Question, and then you can click your question and your comments. You can do this now. don't wait for the end. You can send your comments and your questions to participate in such an important moment in this roundtable with the executives of Duratex. An important thing here is to stress that Duratex Day is an event that usually happens in present manner, but today it is 100% online because we are following all the WHO guidelines. So here in the studio, only I am not using apron, gloves, and mask, and this is to be able to communicate with you. And also the whole technical team here in the studio, everybody is wearing aprons and masks with gel, maintaining the social distance, and all had their temperatures measured to work here today with this transmission. So we're doing everything, taking a lot of care and keeping to the calendar to be able to give the information on the company, even though the whole thing is 100% virtual. Starting from now until 11:30 this morning, you will better learn about Duratex. It's a Brazilian company, 69 years old of history, leader in the three segments it acts in: wood, deca, and then ceramic tiles. Last year, there was a joint venture with Lenzing for the construction of the dissolving wood pulp. More than 10,000 collaborators, 16 plants in Brazil and 3 in Colombia. It aims to create solutions for a better life. And this purpose was never so relevant as it is today, right? So now I would like to show you the agenda so that you can organize yourself and know what is going to be addressed here this morning. Firstly, we're going to have an opening with Antonio Joaquim de Oliveira, CEO from the Duratex, and then we have Henrique Haddad, the CFO, and then Henrique Marcondes, head of wood, Marcia Luisa, head of Deca, Gilmar Menegon, head of ceramic tiles, and Daniela Lopes, head of IT and digital innovation. After the presentation of each one of these executives, we're going to open for Q&A session. We're going to have and there you will be able to participate with us by sending your questions and answers. You can register to your comment and your question. So please contribute for this transmission because it is what you want to hear. So please participate clicking on the button, send your question. You who are watching us at YouTube, you can access the QR code, where you will be led to the site, or duratexday.com.br. I hope to have your participation. So now is everybody ready? So let's continue with our event. So we will open with this morning's content. I would like to call to the floor for the official opening of this event with more wide-ranging information on the company. Antonio Joaquim, the CEO of Duratex, who is going to tell us what the company has been doing in this period of COVID-19 and the next steps. So, Antonio, you have the floor. Good morning, Milena. Thank you very much. So, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be with you on this day, being able to render accounts to our investors and all the people that follow up on Duratex. I would like to very briefly talk about this year, which was such a challenging year, such a difficult year. However, we had enormous lessons that we learned. If we do a retrospective of this year, I would like to remind you of the beginning, the first quarter. We began the year very optimistic, believing that we were going for a very positive year. And immediately afterwards, in March, the news began to emerge when, in fact, we suffered the impact of the pandemic, a scenario that no executive, no planner, no analyst could ever foresee. And in this situation, this is where immediately in the first quarter, we had to decide a very difficult decision, which was to begin stalling operations, suspending operations. We began to feel the plants and all the operations. All stores were closed, starting from the second quarter of March, second week in March. And then immediately the company found itself in a very peculiar situation. At this moment, our stronger concern was to preserve first our collaborators. So this was a decision taken by the board with regards to with the investors and shareholders, and there we began to begin a home office regime. We had never practiced it in such a scale. All our collaborators, almost all of them, went home, and we decided to not reduce wages. We decided to confront the situation together. At the same time, the company went to the market because obviously we had cash. Although it was very solid, we were not prepared for what was coming before us. So we could not at that moment know if we were going to have 3, 6, 1 year stopped, paralyzed. Nobody really knew what to expect here. So we went to the market. We did a strong financial capture, and we were successful. We managed to capture at the end of the first quarter and the second one, 6.6 billion reais, and we consolidated the cash necessary to confront the pandemic. Starting from this moment, we continued with our operations. We tried to observe the market in a very important way. We tried to get closer, even though it was virtual or via telephone, via internet, with our clients, analyze the situation of each person. There was a moment where there was almost despair. And then in the beginning of April, as you can observe here in the slide, around the 15th of April, all our operations were closed. All plants in Brazil paralyzed, and our 3 plants in Colombia too. This was a moment for myself as an executive, was the most difficult moment in my life, where we had this scenario with paralyzed plants. But as important, as serious of all of this, we had the idea that we did not know just when we would come back. We had to observe the market. And starting from there, we began to prepare ourselves with daily meetings between the executives, Saturdays, Sundays, holidays. We set up crisis committees, and we began to operate the company vis-a-vis within this new normal. And starting from this moment, some important measures contributed for us to be able to prepare ourselves for this. So we had to face the situation. Construction material stores, which were our main clients, the construction material sector was considered an essential activity. So stores began opening all over Brazil, and we began to have a slightly better perspective. And in April and May, we began to recoup our operations. I would say that by the end of April, we were practically going back with all the activities. And the initial expectations we had in terms of results began to revert itself slowly in April, but signaling that we could have good opportunities here. At this moment, we began to work strongly internally. So what could we do? We worked strongly. We worked costs very strong, commitment of collaborators, and then we began to operate in a way that I had never seen before in the company. It was extraordinary. The sales team worked virtually. All the plant teams came, all the people went back to plant operations, and the scenario began to change. So in May, going towards June, we began to see a recovery. And this would be, a traditional type of recovery, seeing what the market says, and we never really observe. In fact, we had a very fast recovery. We entered June with a very positive perspective, and at the end of June, we already had the largest divisions, Deca and Wood, operating practically full speed, full capacity. So this encouraged us. It was very positive, and we arranged with the shareholders. We traced a new forecast for 2020, and really we prepared ourselves for a strong recoup. This recoup, as you can observe in the numbers, which was divulged today, and that Haddad will give us, will detail for us. This occurred parting very strongly, parting from July, and allowed us to build during this third quarter to have the best quarter in our history. It was surprising. All the units were operating 24/7. All the plants, our sales, the civil construction segment came back in an extraordinary way. Maybe there are three reasons here. The first, the drop in interest rates. We are operating with a very low interest rate scenario. This helps the sector, contributes to lower costs for credits in terms of the end consumer, and it stimulates investments that before would go to financial operation. Now, the civil construction segment began to develop in an extraordinary way to generate new income, and this affected very positively our Duratex business, and we began to operate in the ceramic tile segment at the end of July, beginning of August, with full capacity, full occupation, and with this we began to work the prices. We were able to recover the margins that were lost. The prices were very low, and so we were able to recover inflation that occurred with regards to inputs, but as well as low interest rate, this new normal, this new valorization of the home, the place we live in. We saw this in numerous projects, engineering offices, architectural offices, working full time, and the sector moving in a very positive way. In this third quarter, I would say that in fact we attained our apex in our operations, and this makes us very happy and very positive with regards to what to expect for the end of the year. Also, we see the recoup, a strong recoup of launches in civil construction. All the developers and construction companies are taking up launches again and working in a very positive way. This should give us a scenario for 21, 22, and probably the next 2 or 3 years will be a very positive scenario, for there are new launches now, many new constructions, and these constructions have this timing, and our products, as you know, they come at the end of the construction works. So we're very positive, and we believe, in fact, that we are going to work and the year is going to be very good. Now, I will give the floor back to Milena so that she can continue, and we will come back with a summary of the whole event, and then go back for questions and answers. Antonio, congratulations for the actions taken. Congratulations. Now we will continue with this morning's presentation, and you can participate by sending your questions, making your comments. Please send it to the transmission platform www.duratexday.com.br. Now, I would like to give the floor to Henrique Haddad, CFO of Duratex. He's going to talk from his home office, and he's going to tell us about how these actions reflected in the numbers of the company. Good morning, Henrique. You have the floor.
Estamos retomando aqui a conexão com o Henrique, é isso? Henrique, se você nos ouve, talvez o seu microfone esteja no mudo, é isso?
Oi, pessoal, tá me ouvindo? Desculpa. Eu
Tá no
tava.
mudo?
Agora tá
Agora foi?
funcionando? Ah, tá
Henrique, bom
perfeito.
dia, seja
Good
bem-vindo. A
morning,
palavra é
Henrique.
sua.
Welcome. You have the
Bom
floor.
dia, pessoal. É um prazer muito grande estar aqui mais uma vez para a apresentação dos nossos resultados. Esse Duratex Day, normalmente a gente faz presencialmente, hoje de uma
Dentro de
forma.
instantes vamos
So in a few minutes,
completar então
we
a
will.
conexão com o Henrique, é isso?
We're waiting to connect with Henrique.
Ok?
Estão me
Muito
ouvindo?
bem, Henrique.
Henrique,
Ok? Posso chamá-lo?
Já tô.
Ok. Henrique, você me ouve?
Henrique, can you hear me?
Ouço sim, tô ouvindo vocês perfeitamente.
Alô, Henrique?
Oi, estão me ouvindo? Acho que o
Lembrando
pessoal
que
tá
essa é uma
ouvindo.
manhã muito
So I would like to
rica de
remind you that
conteúdo.
this
Acabou de
morning
passar por
that is
esse
full
palco
of
Antônio
content.
Joaquim de
We've
Oliveira,
just
ele que é
heard
CEO da
Antonio
Duratex.
Joaquim de
Ainda nesta
Oliveira,
manhã, você vai
CEO
acompanhar
of
o CFO da
Duratex. And
Duratex,
this
Henrique
morning
Haddad,
you're
que
going
já
to
está na
listen
ponta
now
aqui,
to
daqui a pouquinho
Henrique
entra ao
Haddad,
vivo conosco,
the
direto do
CFO
escritório da
of
sua
Duratex.
residência.
He's
Também teremos
going
Henrique
directly from
Marcondes
his
passando por esse
office
palco,
at his
Marcelo
home, and then
Iso
we have
também
Henrique
passando por esse palco.
Marcondes,
Direto
Marcelo
lá do sul do
Iso,
Brasil,
from the
Gilmar
south of
Menegon também
Brazil,
estará
Gilmar
conosco.
Menegon, who
E
will
teremos
be
ainda
with
Daniel
us too,
Lopes
and then we
Franco
have
também
Daniel
passando aqui por
Lopes
este palco. Então
Franco, who
vocês
will
vão
go also
receber
will speak
conteúdo
to
de
us.
todas as
So
áreas, de
you
todos os segmentos da
receive
empresa,
content from
madeira,
all
deca,
areas and
revestimentos
segments
cerâmicos,
of the
inclusive
company,
também vão pegar
including you
informações
are
de
going to get the
tecnologia e
technology
inovação
and
digital.
innovation information.
Agora há pouco, o
So
CEO da
now,
Duratex,
the
Antônio
CEO
Joaquim
of
Oliveira,
Duratex,
fez
Antonio
um
Joaquim
apanhado
Oliveira,
geral. Ele trouxe um painel,
made
uma
a quick
contextualização
summary.
desse ano
He
até aqui
put this year into
e se
context
mostrou
for us,
entusiasmado
and
com os
he
próximos
is
passos, com o que
enthusiastic
está
with
por
the
vir
next steps
nesse
that are
último
coming.
trimestre
You know,
que
this
nós
last quarter
iniciamos.
that we began.
Estamos aqui tentando uma conexão com o Henrique Haddad dentro de
We're trying
instantes,
a
ok?
connection.
Henrique, você me ouve?
Ouço sim, tô ouvindo perfeitamente.
Alô, Henrique?
Oi, estou ouvindo. Acho que todos estão ouvindo
Ok?
também.
Henrique, a palavra é sua então.
So you have
Muito
the floor,
obrigado.
Henrique.
Bom, pessoal, obrigado. Eu estou muito feliz de estar aqui com vocês de novo, fazendo a apresentação dos resultados do terceiro trimestre, desta vez de forma remota, o nosso Duratex Day, o segundo, nesse formato mais participativo, mas é um prazer muito grande poder dividir com vocês tudo o que vem acontecendo aqui na Duratex e com muito orgulho a gente vai falar um pouco dos resultados. Bom, falando um pouquinho de entrega de resultado, de EBITDA, eu acho que nós estamos num momento realmente de destaque para a empresa. É o melhor trimestre da história da Duratex. Estamos falando aqui, depois de muitos anos, suplantar o famoso ano de 2013, onde todos nós e aqueles que acompanham os resultados da Duratex sempre têm como referência, como potencial de geração de resultado. Então, eu acho que a gente tem aí um crescimento
So I think here we
importantíssimo.
have a very
Isso
important
que
growth,
eu tenho
and this
reforçado essa
I
mensagem de
have
uma forma
reinforced this
muito forte,
message in a very
internamente e
strong way,
externamente. Não é por
internally
acaso.
and
Esse é um
outside.
resultado
It's
que vem
not by
sendo
chance. This is a
construído no tempo,
result that has
né?
been built
Por
in
vezes eu
time.
tenho comentado
So
com todos
now I have
todo o
commented with
trabalho que foi feito
everybody
em
all the work that
produtividade,
was done in
liberação de
terms of
capacidade,
productivity,
repriorização dos
liberation
nossos
of
investimentos,
capacity,
né? O foco no
reuse
crescimento
the
em outros
investments,
segmentos, no
focus on
caso,
growth and other
revestimentos cerâmicos
segments,
agora e
such as
celulose
ceramic tiles now,
solúvel para o futuro, mas também
dissolving
um
wood pulp for the
reposicionamento
future,
das
but
nossas
also a
operações
repositioning
mais
of
core,
our
aquelas que já estão com a gente
operations,
há muito
or the
tempo, como
ones that
madeira
have been with
e
us for a
deca
long
e
time, like
40%
wood,
de aumento
deca, and
de
hydra.
resultado referente
40%
a
increase in
2013,
results,
o aumento importantíssimo em
referring
relação
when
ao
we
ano
go back to
passado, e todas
2013,
as operações
and
com a
all
margem
the
acima de
operations
20%
with
e a
margin
margem
over
EBITDA
20%,
recorrente
EBITDA,
superior a
recurring EBITDA
24%,
margin over
patamar que nos
24%.
orgulha
So
muito
this is a
e deixa
level
a
that
gente
makes us most
consciente
proud.
e com
We
certeza
are
de que nós estamos no
sure
caminho certo.
that we are in the right
Outro
path.
destaque da nossa
Another
operação esse
highlight of
trimestre,
our
uma coisa que
operation
vem
this
também
quarter
sendo
is
construída no
something
tempo, é a
that
geração
has
de
been
caixa
built in time, is
operacional.
cash,
Nós já
operating
estamos
cash
atingindo quase
generation.
700 milhões
We
de
have
reais de
attained
geração de
almost
caixa
700
no
million
ano,
reais in
mesmo
cash
passando
generation
por
in
um
the year,
processo de
even
bastante
going through
dificuldade
a
dentro do
process
segundo
of
trimestre, como
difficulty
vocês lembram.
like we had in the second quarter. Obviously, we had a moment of great tension in the second quarter, but in the third quarter, we received everything that was done, all the prorrogations for our clients, and the highlight for the work of the working capital management, where we clearly noticed our capacity to generate cash consistently, even in doing investments that were consolidated in the third quarter, LD Cellulose, totalizing more than 520 million reais a year, and we're showing a free cash flow, which is positive, over 100 million reais. This shows us that structurally, Duratex is different, and we are building a situation here, and certainly this is going to position us to an even better year. The consequence of this cash generation and the work that has been done in managing the debt, we were able to attain one of the lowest debts in the last year, and this is a very important factor, because in spite of everything that happened in the crisis, we have been working, reprogramming our debt to maintain our investment capacity in the short term, and also for our needs of growth needs, which is the focus of the organization at this moment. So this is a moment that is most important, with emphasis for the result as a whole. And you will see in the other presentations more details with regards to each one of our business units. To close this block with regards to consolidated consolidated results and cash generations, I'm going to talk about our dissolving wood pulp, dissolving cellulose here. So all the investment necessary has already been done in equity. We did for forests and consolidated contribution with the share of each one, 49% Duratex, 51% lensing, and we closed the financing program. With regards to investments as a whole, $1.2 billion, supported by several banks, all the bylenders, and this project is reason for much pride. We were given 2 awards in the Latin Final Awards, which shows us that this is a very robust structure. It demanded a lot of work, naturally, but we believe, in fact, that the focus is clear, and in spite of all the problems we had in the pandemic, we are in the right path. And also, summarizing our agenda, infrastructure and construction is going at full speed. It is amazing to see the size of the works, the dimension, the amount, all the people mobilized in that place. And so we are sure there is no reason to not believe that we believe that at the end of the first quarter 2022 to begin operations and have one more very successful operation in the Duratex portfolio. And with this, I would like to close this presentation in terms of soluble dissolving cellulose and go back to Milena to continue with the event. Thank you very much, Henrique Haddad, for your participation, live participation. And now we're going to continue with this morning's content. And now we have Henrique Marcondes, head of the wood division, a unit that is in full operation. Duratex is leader of the wood panels market. Henrique Marcondes, you have the floor.
Olá, eu sou Henrique Marcondes, sou responsável pela divisão de madeiras da Duratex. Estou na Duratex aproximadamente há 4 anos. Queria falar um pouco com vocês aqui sobre como a gente está vendo esse terceiro trimestre. Se a gente for comparar pelo IBÁ, que olha o setor de uma forma importante, está muito claro a retomada do mercado de painéis. Isso está bastante evidente. A gente vê um crescimento importante do mercado frente ao terceiro trimestre de 2019 da ordem de 20%. Quando a gente olha
So
os
third
principais
quarter of the
canais,
third.
seja indústria moveleira, seja varejo de painel, para marceneiro, fica muito evidente quanto isso cresceu agora no terceiro trimestre, né? Seja pela demanda reprimida do segundo trimestre,
Because of the
seja por
repressed
essa
demand
mudança
of
de
the
hábito de consumo, que a gente percebe essa valorização do ambiente, das casas, mas isso vem trazendo de uma forma bastante interessante uma desestocagem importante em toda a cadeia. E com isso a gente vem ganhando. A Duratex conseguiu ter um avanço importante de market share por conta de estar preparada para esse
had an
momento.
important advance in market share to be prepared for this moment. So this is a very important moment in this period. When we look at the leverages and what this brings to us in terms of result, it is clear with the efficient management strategy of assets, how we address with commodities, with cost efficiency, and how we differentiate ourselves. With regards to assets, we have a historical record, production and sales revenue in this quarter. We had an important optimization of the plants, of the industry and forests. This is very effective. We've had a reduction of stocks, which is very important, maintaining satisfactory service levels, which we call OTIF. And we approved the acquisition of new line, a new BP, to be installed next year. We're focused in cost competitiveness. Plant operations is full capacity, working full time every day of the week. It's doing very well. We've seen several months operating in this way. The accuracy of planning is certainly helping us to have an adequate service to clients. We also implemented immediately after July's historical record, we implemented a transport management system, which is increasing its efficiency here too. In the commercial, we see maturity in commercial policy. Commercial execution is paying attention to sellout, which help us understand our clients. Noble products, we focus on differentiation. The assertiveness of the last collections have been acknowledged in the market, and I would like to stress the adherence of this collection of internal materials. Here we have double the volume that we used to sell in the third quarter last year, which is a very important quarter for us. The commercial policy has helped us, and we're preparing the collection for 2021. With regards to strategy in numbers, the evolution of this strategy, all this commercial pricing, commercial execution, and portfolio have helped with the evolution of the EBITDA, as well as cost leadership. I talked about the vocational plants, the lean structure which we implemented in Itapetininga, have replicated to other plants, the SNOP parts which have been integrating the teams, and stocks which are very low, aligned to a good OTIF. And lastly, when we begin to look at the assets and EVA improvement, this divestments of forest assets associated to increase in profitability is already showing us an EVA that is positive in the third quarter. This is historical and also an important improvement in the financial cycle. Cash generation, which is very relevant. So what becomes evident here is to show this comparison between the third quarter 2019, where we had 20% EBITDA, and now we're attaining 20% EBITDA. And this is an issue of price and mix, but also efficiency in costs and productivity. And exchange did hinder things a bit, but even so, we have a 25% level. When we look at the importance of volumes, if I compare 2019 with 2020, the same quarter, IBA has grown 20%. We are growing 38%. So we have a relevant market share gain. We're going from 145 million in EBITDA to 252 million. This strengthens the strategy that we are implementing, which is a responsible balance between volume, price and mix. That is, already in the second quarter, we can better understand just how efficient this full capacity strategy is with competitive efficient, that is relevant, strong growth in commodities and price assertiveness. Here we began to consider what would be the full potential where we had productivity gains. We continue with differentiation strategy. The idea is to grow increasingly with added value products, and this is being allowed for by the leverages that we have been implementing quarter after quarter. I would like to thank you, and now I am open to your ideas or questions that you might have. So thank you. So now we're going to have questions and answers at the end. In reality, in the second part of this transmission, immediately after all the executives have spoken individually. Now we are going to talk about a division that Duratex is leader in, which is the sanitary ware, and it is one of the main producers of electric showers. I would like to give the floor now to Marcelo Isa, Deca, the head of the Deca division. Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you and have the opportunity to be able to talk about the DECA's strategic agenda and how this agenda has translated into the results for the third quarter 2020. You've seen through Antonio's, Haddad's, and Marcondes' presentation the robustness of the set of results we're presenting to you. I don't believe DECA has been as different as the consolidated and partial results in wood. Obviously, we cannot hide the fact that our performance in the third quarter was impacted by three very important factors, one short-term, the other mid, and the other long-term. The first one, no doubt, was governmental help in this pandemic, which no doubt came back, was turned to consumption. Second is the interest rate, which is an all-time historical low. And the third one is a change of the behavior of the consumer, the way he sees, obviously, his house, his home. So these three variables and factors, they affected positively our performance in this quarter. With regards to numbers, so you can see the third quarter, which was the first quarter where you begin operating after the pandemic. It came, and according to Abramat, presenting real growth rates and not nominal rates. This rate is the true revenue, net sales of the industry between June, July, and August, September, July, August, September. So here, the civil constructions materials sector presented growth rates. As important here is to see our performance here, and for us, the capitalization of everything we have been presenting, and one of our pillars, which was implemented at the end of last year's quarter, and in phases this year, which is our commercial execution with excellence, leads to a performance that is superior to the market's performance. DECA, during this whole period, in this third quarter, it overperformed the market. So that you can have an idea, the market in the quarter grows 4%. When we look at DECA, this sales revenue was greater than the prior quarter in 20%. If we consider year-to-date, it also presents a greater trend. DECA has been overperforming the market in this period. So what happened? Probably you will see a chart now which talks about what was presented 1 year ago, which we baptized as a snapshot of our strategic agenda. It's worth remembering that this agenda was presented to the board 2 years ago. This must have been August, September 2018. And this this is where we talked about the pillars that would lead us to the implementation that theoretically where we would have success with a basic criteria, which was shareholder value creation. And this is exactly what we're going for in this agenda. Last year, we showed you the advances we had, but I also mentioned that out of the 6 pillars we had, they wouldn't happen simultaneously. We would have to materialize some of them so that we could have structural changes that would allow us to have sustainable development in this here. So what you can see in blue is exactly what we presented last year, and what you see in green is what we have in terms of success during this year, the continuous implementation during 2020. It's important to stress that we begin to emphasize innovation pillar. You can see here in the chart everything that was translated and tangibilized in 2020. This is a consequence of something I said last year already, which was the capacity to reduction of our time to market from 18 to 14 months. And this allowed us to have all of these launches during this year. It is important to stress that among the launches we had, you have the wash basins, which is just another example, excluding stainless steel wash basins, kitchen sinks, which is the asset light. And we were able to generate revenue in a segment. And this same example for the wash basins, which is another example entering the brand in a category of which we did not participate in, and we began to participate, generating revenue for the organization through the production of third parties. So this is just one other example. Productivity, operational and logistics essence came to stay. The concept of suppliers of profit center came to stay. Productivity is something that never finishes. The more you delve into productive processes, the more opportunities we find. So there are several examples in green that you can see what we did during this year, stressing 2 points that I find fundamental. Productivity this year grows 25% in the period, 25% over last year, highlighting the fact that last year was the year for this pillar, for the incrementability of our EBITDA in 2019. And this year, we can grow 25% over last year. Another important point is the restructuring of products that we did with Hydra, which allowed our quality to improve and our complaints and return index dropped 50%. And this money goes directly to our cash and to our results. However, I would like to stress the pillar where we really did advance this year, which was the commercial execution. I said to you that the second year, the agenda would have this important step that we would take. And we show the amount of steps made with regards to these pillars, showing the dynamism that we are confronting from the commercial execution perspective, and highlighting that this has a fundamental role in terms of the generation of the top line of the organization. This implementation of our pillar with excellence, commercial execution with excellence, has the merit which makes us overperform the market and certainly our competitors. And it's safe to say that we're in the right path. How does this advance that we've had here with pillars, how has this translated into numbers now in the third quarter? So you have the idea of our volume, it grows 25%. And also our revenue, our gross margin. I always say that the importance of the gross margin, because it is here that we can see all our advance in terms of productivity. It goes from 30% to 35%, almost 5 percentage points gain in gross margin, operating in a capacity that is not idle anymore. We're working almost full capacity capacity in Deca, which allows us to have an EBITDA which is very significant. It grows 65% in the period, making our margins go from 16.9 to 22.2. So I think when I look at all these results, they tangibilize the essence of our strategy. You grow, obviously, the EBITDA through not only generating the top line, but also operating and logistics efficiencies through productivity projects. But then you can ask, Marcela, how do you see the future? I always say, and recently I said in a call that I had with investors with regards to just how much we trust in our strategic pillars. So this is one more year. I go to the board to say I fully believe in these pillars. These pillars will lead to our objectives of shareholder value creation and somehow has translated and tangibilized results that are very important for us. If you see our margin, when we began this journey in our agenda, we had a third quarter 2018, which was exactly when we presented this to the board and to Antonio. We had an EBITDA margin of around 14% in 2019, 17%, and now 22%, which means that practically we had 8 percentage points EBITDA margin gain in 2 years. So it is safe to say that this agenda has given significant results in the adequate time for each one of the pillars. It's not chance that makes us have such positive results for Deca. It is the consequence of the 3 initial factors that I mentioned in the beginning, but also internal efforts to translate actions into numbers. Well, this is what I had to say. We're going to have a Q&A section where you can ask me any question you might have. Thank you very much, Marcelo Iso. We're going to have this question and answer session immediately. Please, if you are following us at YouTube, you will not have access to this interaction. You need now open your camera, point to QR code, which appears in the video, and there you will be automatically led to the site of the event. The site is www.duratexday.com.br, and you can do this. You can send your comments and questions through these mechanisms. Now we have the head of ceramic tiles, the newest division of Duratex with Ceusa and Portinari. He is going to talk directly from Criciúma, Santa Catarina. Gilmar Menegon. Good morning, Menegon. You have the floor.
Bom dia a todos, é um enorme prazer estar aqui com vocês.
Good morning. It's a huge pleasure to be with you, even in a slightly different way than compared to last year, but always very close. My name is João Menegon. I am Director of Ceramic Tiles and we have worked for Duratex Group for 3 years. We've come to talk about the results for the third quarter 2020. Sectorial analysis, ANFACER data pointing to high recovery of the market parting from July, growth of the invoicing in ceramic tiles industry in the order of 20% in the third quarter this year when compared to the same quarter last year, elevating the use of the plant capacity in the third quarter 2019, 76% to 80% in 2020, and better when comparing the second quarter of 2020, where the use of plant capacity was around 39%. The Duratex ceramic tiles, with strong prioritization in the added value strategy, we managed to leverage the sales volume 47% in the third quarter 2020 when compared to the third quarter 2019. The focus and improvement of mix allied to a better functioning of the brands allowed us to elevate our net revenue by 57%, leaving 178 million in the third quarter 2019 to 275 million in the third quarter 2020, allowing us to be able to have full the use of the productive capacity by 93%. 30%. This allowed for effective gains in operating margins. Our adjusted EBITDA had a growth of 118%, going from 31.9 million to 68.2 million through volume, mix and productivity and price. These results were attained with several actions done in this 1 year of integration between Ceusa and Portinari, focused on operational excellence and synergies capture. Many initiatives were done. In the industrial field, the transfer of the Minas Gerais unit to Santa Catarina and the reductions of from 5 to 2 DCs. We had a strong use of processes in plant, aiming for greater gross profit per unit in each plant unit. We also had the startup of the expansion project in the Uruçanga Ceusa with Industry 4.0, the first true 4.0 industry in Brazil. And now you will have the opportunity to watch a video and see the size of this project. The way of creating changed. The way of producing has also changed.
A Portinari e a Ceusa, duas marcas Duratex.
Portinari and Ceusa, two Duratex brands, presents to us the evolution of the way of doing tilings. So this is the best way of a new industry. The first one in Latin America to operate with the 4.0 concept. Industry 4.0 means 100% digital control. With your tablet or mobile in hand, our professionals can access information with regards to daily production, check quality and performance indicators, and give the remote guidelines to the whole team. 4.0 means automation of delivery. There are several equipments that are entirely operated by robots, which guarantee a production process that is much faster, efficient, and safe. Industry 4.0 is also much more of a sustainability factor. It reduces water, gas, and energy consumption in each productive process. So you use resources with responsibility. This is what we call the future. It is what is most modern operating to develop perfect environments, offering products with the same tonality, with the exact dimension, and also with a large visual unit. The way of producing Portinari and Ceusa has changed for the better, has changed for you. Industry 4.0, the highest technology at the service of delicacy and art, as the commercial is administrative. This occurred through several initiatives. Among them, we can trace the unification of administrative, commercial, and trademark teams. Also, unification of sales teams, promoters dedicated for each brand, the use of one single commercial policy for Ceusa and Portinari, and lastly, unification of the export channel with DECA channel, which strengthened data for both businesses. Here, we managed to have the ramp-up of our expansion process. With regards to brand synergies, we discontinued the Secrisa brand with low-end products, focusing on high-end products in Ceusa and Portinari. Also, we focused replicating all technical differentials of Ceusa to Portinari, such as monotone, monocaliber, and also the strengthening of the Ceusa brand in digital leaders, leveraged by Portinari, which is leader in the segment in the planet. It has the greatest number of followers in Instagram with ceramic tiles. Another action was the launch of our smart store, which we're going to present to you in a video, and our entrance to the e-commerce area. So, following the omni-channel retail trends, we present Smart Store, a future store. At Smart Store, it is possible to experiment instantaneously tilings in their own environment. When emerging, showing this in a screen, you can choose the brand that you want to simulate, and then you can project in the screen the pictures that you took before in your environment. You save it in the gallery of your mobile, and then afterwards you mirror this, and then you can try out all the tiles available in different colors and formats. This part, it is possible to see the specifications of the project, such as finishing and place of use. In the samples, in the space, the client can see the design, feel the textures of the tilings selected, the panel selected. And with the use of technology, Smart Store facilitates its choice and purchase of products. All of this in a very pleasant experience. The experience becomes even more complete by sending images to very special people who will experience unique moments in this future environment. A true revolution in the way of trying out the tilings.
E o futuro?
And the future, talking about our strategy, it is based in three pillars: operational excellence, commercial, and strengthening of the brands. In the operational excellence, the strengthening and modernization of Industry 4.0 would lead to other industrial units focused in high industrial performance. Also, we're working the evolution of SNLP service level. At the end of the year, we're going to have the go-live of the SAP Forerunner system, which will certainly lead us to another information management level. With this SAP for SAP, we are going to restructure market intelligence, strengthening our commercial policy with Ceusa and Portinari, and also prepare to ourselves for e-commerce. In the brand strengthening pillar, we'll invest strongly in relationships programs with professionals and also the journey of the consumer, consolidating our Smart Door, which is an infinite corridor for opportunities which will lead us to e-commerce. With these strategic actions and the strength of the Duratex brands, we certainly are going to build the greatest ceramics tilings company in Brazil. I would like to thank you for the opportunity, and I'm at your disposal for any questions you might have during the Q&A session. Thank you very much, Gmenegon. So in a few minutes, we're going to begin with this questions and answer block. Now we have the moment of talking about the future. Now I would like to give the floor to Daniel Franco, Head of IT and Innovations at Duratex.
Good
morning, my name is Daniel Franco. I began in Duratex in 2016 as Strategic Mergers and Acquisition Strategies. I'm responsible for the innovation. I'm responsible for strategy. And before I talk about this digital transformation, I would like to remind you of a small key point vis-à-vis this context of transformation, strategic redesign. Our purpose, solutions for a better life. It is through our purpose that we positively impact the lives of millions of Brazilians and Latin Americans through the solutions portfolio for a better life. No doubt, taking well-being, comfort, and much good experience to the homes of these consumers. Why is it important to talk about a purpose? Because a purpose is what's going to lead us us to our choices and battles to build this technology and digital transformation roadmap. As well as a purpose, it is important to understand the context we're living in from a technological point of view. More specifically, I would like to talk about civil construction, refurbishing, and decoration. This study, promoted by Accenture and Gartner, shows that civil construction is positioned among the sectors that least innovate in terms of technology and digital transformation. If I remember well, it only beats the fishery sector. So you imagine, we have been fishing ever since the Roman Empire, and it only beats fishery here with regards to digital transformation. Is this good or bad? I see it as good, very good, because starting from here, we can understand that opportunities are just infinite. It is a sea of opportunities that can allow Duratex to protagonize this moment of transformation. Another point that I find important, and it's important to have in mind, because we can mirror ourselves in some sectors that are well beyond us in terms of innovation, digital transformation, so that we can, parting from this inspiration, choose projects that at a certain moment not necessarily adapt to a business model at Duratex, but as to how it does its business. Many examples of the consumptions and logistics industry can be replicated in the way we buy products or sell products, or even how we interact with the end consumer. So not necessarily do we have to have as one single source of inspiration, that's directly linked to our segment. But since we have a very transformational and ambitious journey, it is important to begin to choose our battles. We set up a multidisciplinary group with executives from all business units. We mapped 20 trends that you can see. From these 20 trends, they are grouped in 4 clusters. The first one is new demand. Second, modernization of the value chain. Third, digital technology. And fourth, innovations in materials. So once we understand how these trends will impact the refurbishing, civil construction, and decoration sector, we have a driver where, in terms of the choices we're going to make with regards to the elaboration of our digital transformation strategy. Not only a digital transformation strategy, it is important to note that these trends affect the value chain and demand. This is the reason we began 2 years ago a very interesting work to come closer to the entrepreneurial ecosystems through 2 acceleration waves, Garage to Duratex, to speed up business with scale-ups that have solutions for the main problems found in the refurbishing, civil construction parts, and house impact with a social impact. That means, how can I have more well-being and humanity to the homes that are in very precarious situations? The approximation with the entrepreneurial ecosystems helps us to understand how we reinvent all of this. We have noticed increasingly that entrepreneurs are challenging constructive methods that are still very archaic in the Brazilian market. And the way that this is reinvented changes our commercial relationship with channels and these entrepreneurs. And we cannot forget the importance of digital technology in this journey. However, vis-a-vis so much information, it is important to understand how we will choose the battles. What are the projects that will be more relevant and have more impact in the strategic development of Duratex? How can we, or how are we going to be able to materialize our purpose in a more efficient way through technology, be it soft or hard? The answer goes through an understanding of the journey of the consumer regarding construction, refurbishing, and decoration. This journey begins at a moment the consumer decides to buy his own house or build his home, and after some time this new property or used one goes through a refurbishing period, and after this products are damaged and they need to be repaired. So this is a long journey and very costly. And there is a lot of market behind this journey, which helps us, which is associated to products and services. So a good understanding of this journey can lead us, can help us in the process of prioritization of projects. It is important to understand the consumer alone cannot do much in this process. He needs to have professionals. He needs influencers, physical or digital. And the understanding of the consumer with these professionals can also help Duratex solve problems where a process which was going to be a very pleasurable moment is a process of pain and suffering. Who hasn't gone through a refurbishing which escaped the budget? It wasn't the way we wanted, and it was delayed. And this is the reality for millions of Brazilians and Latin Americans. But there is a way of changing this reality, which is through offering digital products and services that are even more modern, connected to trends, and this is how we can change this process, speeding up the desire of the consumer for more refurbishings, not making him procrastinate a decision which should be good. Today, the Brazilian person waits for the last minute to decide upon a refurbish. Something that was good is avoided, unfortunately. Coming closer to professionals can help us change this reality, because most of the problems of the consumer happens by when he chooses a more qualified professional for his service, sometimes an architect, a decorator with a key source of inspiration. Through technology, we can change the relationship that Duratex has with this influencer and also the consumer. So an important thing to consider too are the physical channels in this channel. There are many channels here. The process of buying a home is very representative in the lives of people. Brazilian person saves 40 to 60% of its savings to buy a home. And it's obvious he's going to research and a lot before buying such a desired property or even before refurbishing this asset. So when you know that this importance is key, the physical channels begin to exert a fundamental role. And the use of technology and digital transformation together with physical standpoints can change the reality here. It is through this combination between technology and current channels that Duratex intends to change the reality of this journey and how this happens. It's also very important in the prioritization program to understand the consumer's humor in each one of these stages, decision process he makes, and the relevance of my product's portfolio in each one of the journeys. Once I understand all these things, we can be more assertive with regards to choices. For example, nobody buys an apartment, or very few people buy an apartment based on a decision process as to what sanitary ware is there. The decision process of purchasing a property goes beyond the products that are there. In the case of a refurbishing, the relevance of our solutions is more feasible. In some environments, some rooms in the of the home, Duratex has 40% of the average tickets there, like the bathrooms. With regards to refurbishing, the product protagonizes the decision. If a faucet breaks down, it has to be changed. And the perception of value of the client in relation to the product together with the repair service has a whole other proportion, opening to the opportunity of creating value together with entrepreneurial ecosystems or other partners that supply services. Vis-a-vis this clearer understanding of the pains of the consumer in this journey, Duratex decided to choose 5 task forces in the process of the building, of the elaboration of the roadmap. The first, entering the digital retail, a movement that began in 2020 with the Deca store, which is already in there. And by Mid next year, all the other brands will be using the same digital channel, aiming to improve the relationship with the end consumer, offering a great alternative so that he can have fast access with better service level than he would have had through other channels. And now the other task force is improvement of the experience of the sales processes with our direct channels. We have to consider our channels in a more structured way with regards to the improvement process of the consumer's experience. And for this, a basic pre-requirement is how to improve the relationship with my client. How do I make this relationship more digital? How do I use data analytics and artificial intelligence to propose to my client something that is more assertive with regards to what has greater conversion potential? Important information of geolocation of a certain product or query, we can understand through heat maps what are the products that are more researched in each region. This is information and intelligence to help us with the digital transformation process. A great moment to talk about the third task force, data analytics. It does not only aim to try to meet the needs of the journey of the end consumer, how we improve relationships with our clients, but an internal eye, which is the fourth pillar, Industry 4.0. How do we use information from our equipment so that we can make increasingly faster decisions, oftentimes monitored by artificial intelligence algorithms to better standardize temperature, pressure parameters here, so that we can become even more effective with the use of water, raw material, and energy, impacting the planet less and less. We have a last task force, which is services and solutions. We cannot maximize the experience of the end consumer if we don't offer everything to the client. The last image that he's going to have of Duratex is the product, the way he idealized in this architecture or decoration project. So these are the 5 task forces chosen in the roadmap, through the roadmap of this technology. These are very huge battles. We are in the beginning of this transformation journey. I hope to count with you with the Q&A sessions. I'll be available to answer any questions you might have. Thank you. Thank you very much, Daniel Franco. He closed this block of individual presentation from the Duratex executives. Before I call Antonio Joaquim to go back to the stage and make his considerations, his comments, I would like to remind you that you still have time to send your questions and comments. Just click on the button, send your questions. You can access the site of the event via QR code or key in www.duratexday.com.br. So all you have to do is click the button, send your question. And now, Antonio Joaquim, please come back to the stage so that you can make your comments, your final conclusions with regards to everything that was said here before we open to questions and answers. Thank you, Milena. So you saw that we certainly tried to, we showed you we tried to show you as to why we reached this result. I would like to stress, of course, we are going through a very positive moment in the economy, specifically in our sector. It's in all newspapers, you can all see this. So obviously we are surfing this moment in a very responsible way, but also we have a high demand, low stocks in the chain, as everything that was said. So I'm very happy with the results of the operations in all divisions, business divisions, and also I am very encouraged with the fourth quarter. Obviously, we have a situation where we reached We closed the month of October. We've come to the end of October, and we have a very good idea of the fourth quarter. It is going to continue very positively, and this encourages us even more. I would like to stress this point. In spite of us going through a very positive moment in the market, good part of what we of our results is the results of the works we've done in the last years. I would like to stress two very important fronts. When we set up the Duratex management system, which began with Falcone, this year we continued working strongly with McKinsey. And really, we are delivering results that show a long-term work. More than 5 to 6 years, we've been working in terms of costs, cost structures, how to increase productivities. So we see the results here in all the divisions. With regards to ceramic tiles, it's been a year, 1.5 years, from the acquisition of Secret. We were able to execute a search of synergies in a very fast way. And now we are at levels that we expected to obtain in terms of a business case. So it's a very successful integration. Now, I would like to stress this, costs and productivity. And also, I would like to draw your attention to the work, those that monitor Duratex, is the cultural transformation work. I believe, many people ask me, I believe that if we didn't have all this culture process, if it went so well developed, life would have been much more difficult in such a challenging year. Our values and culture, here, everything was essential here. Also, I would like to draw your attention to this work in this new Duratex, this process, the importance of our values, our way of being, of doing, the importance of the strategic pillars, strengthening people, processes, results, clients, all of this collaborates for us to have a solid delivery so that we can, in fact, having such important results in all the sectors and all the positions we work in. So you've seen here in these last slides all this, the aspects of our values, the delivery, and also with SNG field. This whole thing is very relevant. Sustainability, for example, the theme of deliveries that are in keeping with our clients' needs and stakeholders. So I will go back to Milena, and now we are going to the Q&As, and this will allow us to be able to interact more. Thank you very much, Antônio Joaquim. Please, you have the floor here in the stage. Before we open the questions and answers, while we wait for the virtual meeting at Zoom, the Duratex executives are there, so we will open for you to enter this room, and we're going to listen to a message by Lucy Souza, by ABMEC. Good morning, members of ABMEC and other analysts of investments professionals, investors. We are here in a meeting with Duratex. It is one of the longest partnerships of the association, 34 years with our association. And I would like to thank the company represented here by the CEO, Antônio Joaquim de Oliveira. Congratulations. So now we're back here in our studio, directly from São Paulo to the whole of Brazil, to the world. We're receiving questions and comments from other countries too, investors and executives that are listening to this online transmission. We have Antônio Joaquim de Oliveira, CEO of Duratex. We have Henrique Haddad, CFO of Duratex, Iso Marcondes,
e Daniel Lopes Franco, Head de TI e Inovação Digital.
Once again, I would like to thank you all. Welcome to our virtual meeting. Can you all hear me? Do you all have your microphones? Are you ready to begin?
Quem está ouvindo, quem está aberto, quem está pronto faz joinha, né, Antônio? O que você acha? Vamos lá. Muito bem, todo mundo
Okay,
pronto. Vamos lá.
so
Então,
everybody,
nós temos aqui
we
várias
have
perguntas
several
e
questions,
alguns comentários
some
das pessoas
comments
que estão nos
from
acompanhando aqui
people
ao
that
vivo.
are
Nós
listening
vamos
to us.
começar com
We
uma
are going to
participação
begin
ao vivo no
with
Zoom
a
também.
live
Estamos
participation
com
in
Leonardo
Zoom.
Correia, do Banco
Leonardo
BTG.
Correa from
Olá,
BTG
Leonardo, bom
Bank.
dia. Vou passar a
Leonardo, good
palavra a
morning.
você.
I will
Qual é
give
a sua
you the
pergunta ou
floor.
comentário?
What is your question or comment?
Bom dia a todos.
Good morning, everybody.
Muito obrigado, Duratex, pelo
Thank you very
evento.
much, Duratex, for
Com
the
todos os
event.
detalhes aí que foram
All the
fornecidos, acho que a gente
details
realmente
you gave us.
aprende bastante, né, com todos
We
os
learn a
diretores
lot
falando,
with all the
todas as
directors
iniciativas que são
talking
muitas, né,
about all the
em muitas
initiatives.
frentes.
And there are many
Minha
fronts
primeira
that have been
pergunta
opened.
é
My
com
first question
relação
has to do
à tendência de retorno da
with
companhia, né?
the,
A gente
the company's
acompanha no
return
passado
trend. In the past, we have been
abaixo,
seeing
né,
a return which was
requerido pelos
below
investidores,
the
pela
one
empresa.
required by
Muitos anos
investors and the
a
company.
Duratex
For many
esteve
years,
aquém do
Duratex
potencial.
was
E aí,
was a
nesses
little
últimos anos
beyond the
foram
potential,
diversas
did
iniciativas,
not meet the potential.
vários
And this
movimentos
year, there were
estratégicos
several
para a companhia
initiatives, several
voltar
strategic
um nível
moments
mais
for the company
aceitável,
to
né? A gente
go up
consegue destacar
and come
alguns,
back
né?
to a
Venda
more
de incentivos
acceptable levels.
florestais,
For the sale of
houve
forest
turnaround
assets,
em
for
várias
example,
frentes,
there
né?
were several
Principalmente na
fronts
DECA,
here, mainly at
um modelo
DECA
mais asset light,
activities.
né?
This
Que
is a
o
more
mercado consegue
asset-light
enxergar.
model
Então,
where
minha
the
primeira
market
pergunta
can see. So my first question
enfim, para entender pouco da direção
is
dos
to
retornos para
understand
frente,
the direction
entender
of
qual
the
que é o potencial
sector,
que vocês enxergam
the
para a
potential
companhia,
that you see for
né,
the
do ponto de vista de
company
retorno. Aí fiquem à
from a
vontade para falar
returns
se é
point of
retorno total
view.
sobre lucro,
Tell
ou
us if
retorno sobre,
it's
né, capital investido.
what
Mas
kind
para a
of
gente é
return
super
it is over
importante
invested
entender
capital,
qual que é
but
o
for us it's
potencial.
important to
E se puderem
understand the
falar sobre os
potential.
negócios, né?
And
A
if you
gente
can, talk
até
about us, the
acompanhou
business.
a
We've been,
aquisição, né,
we
esse novo
saw
negócio
the
de cerâmicas,
acquisition,
né, que
this
tem
new
retorno
ceramics
expressivo.
business,
Se vocês
which
puderem
had an
falar sobre
expressive
qual, vamos ver, qual
return.
que é o
If you can
segmento que
tell
mais
us
anima
about the
do ponto
segment
de
that
vista
is
de
most
retorno, também
encouraging from a
ajudaria.
returns point of
E
view,
a segunda
this would be
pergunta é com
really great. And
relação
the
aos
second one
volumes, né?
has
Acho que
to
tem
do
sido
with
muito debatido no
volumes.
mercado,
I think
a sustentação desse nível de resultados, né, os
to be able to
volumes
sustain these results, these
crescendo mais de
volumes,
20%
growing more than
ano contra ano,
20%
né?
year after year.
Claro que isso está sendo
And
pouco inflado
obviously,
por todo
this
o
is a
estímulo
little
do governo
inflated because
tem
of the
sustentado,
stimulus
né?
the
Então,
government has
queria
done.
ouvir de vocês pouco
So
sobre
I
a
want to hear
perspectiva para
from
o ano que
you
vem,
the
né?
perspectives
Que
for
tipo
next
de
year.
normalização
What
de volumes
kind
vocês
of
enxergam? Qual que é o
volumes
nível,
normalization
né,
you
de volumes
see?
que a gente
What
pode
is the
enxergar como
level
mais
of volumes that we
sustentável,
can see as more
dada uma normalização
sustainable
do estímulo monetário
once you have a
do governo, que
normalization
já tem
here of the monetary
algumas
stimulus
amarras
of
do
the
ponto de vista
government,
fiscal? Então,
which
são
has
essas
some
perguntas, pessoal. Muito
fiscal
obrigado
problems here?
e
Thank you very
parabéns aí
much,
pelos
and
resultados e
congratulations
por mais
for all the
Duratex Day.
data and for one
Ô,
more
Antônio,
Duratex
antes de
Day.
você iniciar a resposta, eu queria aproveitar e complementar, porque nós temos uma pergunta diretamente
We have
dos
another
Estados Unidos,
direct
o Jonathan
question from
Brenner,
the
do
United States.
HSBC, e ele
From
também
Jonathan Brand,
contempla
HSBC.
esse
He
segundo
also
conteúdo da segunda
contemplates
pergunta,
the second part of
Leonardo.
this
Então, já vou
question.
colocar aqui,
So I'm going to
porque
place
depois,
it
se eu
here because
passar para o
afterwards,
final, vai ficar
if I leave
repetido,
it
né?
to the
Então,
end,
ele
it will be
agradece o
repeated.
evento,
He would like to
parabeniza,
thank for
e
the
ele gostaria
event.
de saber
He would
a
like to
demanda dos
know
próximos
the
2, 3
demand
anos,
for the
e ele
next 2 or 3
justamente pontua
years.
isso, que
And
nesse
he
momento
specifies
muito
this at
boa,
this
por causa dos
moment has been
incentivos
good because
governamentais,
of
taxas de
government
juros,
incentives,
e as pessoas passando
interest
mais tempo em
rates,
casa, não
people
tirando
spending
férias.
more
Então,
time at
ele
home, not
complementa a
taking
pergunta
holidays.
e
So he adds
questiona
to this
quanto
question,
tempo isso
how
deve
long should
durar,
this
né?
take? Will
E
this
depois
take?
eu
And then
passo um outro
afterwards,
assunto
I
dele.
will go on to another question he made.
Obrigado, Leonardo.
Thank you very much, Leonardo from BTG, to participate with us.
Então, pegando
So,
esse primeiro bloco,
this first block, this first part, as I said to you, is the following. We obviously are going through a very positive moment at the moment, but we also see very interesting possibilities here because when you compare the level of activities that Duratex has worked in now, we believe, yes, it is possible to sustain this activity level for a long time. And I believe now we are attaining a level that is planned. Even before the pandemic was planned, we had plans. When we did the restructuring that you mentioned, Leonardo, selling forest assets, closing the activities of a plant, a wood plant in Botucatu, also another ceramics operations plant in São Leopoldo, transferring assets to the Northeast, we took a series of actions where we began to see the results now. That furnace that was transferred from São Leopoldo is operating now in the Recife plant. So all of these measures taken leads us to allow us to sustain these operations vis-a-vis the levels we are in with wood and Deca. What most draws your attention is this huge leap in wood, and wood is going through a very positive moment. We have a strategy that is prepared to sustain these volumes in the next years. We already had a strategic plan, 5-year plan, and we prepared ourselves for it. So I'm very optimistic with regards to maintenance in the short term and the midterm. In the other activities, like ceramic tiles, we have always operated with a capacity that is very close to the installed capacity. What we're operating now is what we operated with at the end of last year. So ceramic tiles will continue. We have 16 production lines. Only one is in downtime. We're doing a retrofit of this plant, and it will come back second semester next year. All the other lines are in full operation, and this is the play. Also with Deca, with these modifications and the plant closings, the plants that were closed last year, and transformations, is the idea is to continue with the same levels, and we have room to grow. I think that we are operating in a very positive level, and we have growth. We have space to grow, to improve results in Deca. Ceramic tiles is very close to the results attained. We also have some space to grow, and in Deca we have room to grow in terms of mix, in terms of portfolio change. We have a very good work. We have a consistent gain in market share. We are very, very encouraged here. So I would say yes, we have the condition to sustain ourselves in the next periods in all businesses. Another point, and here going to the second part of your question, our colleague from the United States and Leonardo, how do we see the fourth quarter? We see in our business is almost given. We have questions, we have requests in the portfolio to sustain the operation, and the operation of the fourth quarter should be at levels that are similar to the third quarter. So really, October was a very strong month, and we have an expectation to close the year in a very positive way. For next year, if we go back to these conditions, from these conditions that stimulated demand, our profile now, many of them are conditions that will remain in the next 2-3 years. For example, low interest is a consensus among economists. Low interest is low interest everywhere in the world, the United States, Europe, and Brazil. So this in Brazil, with the Brazilian investor, is more immediatist. than the European and American investor. So the option for investments in civil construction is given. And this startup, we did not sell one faucet for new launch that has been done. We will do this in the next 2 years. So the beneficial effect of the civil construction, low interest rates, and also we believe that this process where there is a valorization of the home, of the environments in the home, is in keeping with our business. People doing upgrades in their homes, refurbishing their bathrooms, their kitchens, and this is very positive and should generate revenue. So I believe that this will be very good business environments which should favor us. This is temporary effect, government incentive given 600 reais and now 300 reais. This indirectly affects us. It moves the economy, and the owner of the store or those people that has access to our array of products and that have a slightly more elevated profile, he can, this helps, but I would like to say that the both main questions, low interests and the valorizations of environments in the home, stimulating refurbishings and constructions here should remain, and we're very optimistic with 2021. We believe that this can present growth with regards to 2020, and we are very optimistic here in these next 2 or 3 years. And even because many companies have already announced that they're leaving their offices, they're reducing office areas, adopting remote type of work and trips, for example. Here, I always say, let's wait for this pandemic to finish. It's important to know we're healthy. I think good part of home office work has come to stay. We are going, for example, there are areas in companies where companies will, from now on, want to remain independent of the pandemia and home office, and this helps us too. But also I'm talking about the movement of people, consequently being able to remote from home. They give value, they begin to valorize the beach homes, in urban areas, in suburban areas. So this is directly has directly to do with the products we deal with. Here we have several questions, things that you mentioned. Before, I would like to give the floor to one more live participation. We have Márcio Farid from JP Morgan. Márcio.
Oi, estou sim, vocês estão me ouvindo?
Can you hear me? Good morning, Márcio. Welcome. What is your question or your comment, please?
Bom dia, parabéns. Obrigado pelo
Thank
tempo
you.
e a oportunidade.
Thank you for the
Parabéns.
time and the opportunity. Congratulations for the quarter and this event. I have some question that has to do with the sustainability of the market share you managed to have in the third quarter in all business lines, growing substantially over the market with panels, Deca, and ceramics too. So how is the competitive environment today? Do you see some smaller players becoming more aggressive? Do you think once they were able to recoup part of the operations paralyzed, the second quarter and the third quarter, do you see a more challenging market in terms of competition? And following this line, Antonio, you mentioned that you feel safe to talk about the volume for the fourth quarter and a structural wave for 2021 and the next 2 or 3 years. And once having said this, aligned with the competitive environment, what can we expect in terms of margin improvements via price increases? How much can we expect with regards to price movements in the Duratex business lines? Secondly, the mix, the different businesses, panels, wood panels, the external, internal market, Hydra versus Deca. How satisfied satisfied are you with the mix you have, and how much can we expect here? Is there anything in terms of improvement of results? Thank you very much.
Obrigado, Márcio.
Thank you, Márcio.
Uma longa questão.
This is a very long question. We have to separate things, looking at each business. I would say yes. This positive expectation, it has obviously considers the competition. Our competitors today in all the businesses, ceramic, tilings, wood, and sanitary ware, is operating with great conditions. All our competitors, wood competitors, let's consider the wood market. The competitors are working full capacity at this moment, as there is a huge demand, a lack of panels in some segments. I always say, the most relevant is to try to consider the long term. We have been preparing ourselves for a work that Henrique Marcondes explained to you, differentiation here. I remember last year we closed the activities in a plant, which is not even an old plant. It was a plant that, for our efficiency standards, was not so good. So we decided to optimize assets, sell these forest assets, close the plant, and remain with 4 very good productive plants. We had an advance, and perhaps we might have performed better than many competitors in the pandemic process. Yes, it's true. We were very well prepared, and we captured, and we came closer to our clients. During the pandemic, when we were suffering with cash, imagine the situations of our cash. We delayed almost 400 in securities, giving additional credit to clients, meeting the situation of the needs of each one. From these 400 million has come back to our cash. They have been fully paid. So we helped clients, we established long-term partnerships, and we had the opportunity, in fact, for the client to see and know that Duratex is a long-term partnership. It's a long-term and more solid partnership. So I am encouraged with the maintenance of the market share we were able to have with wood. We don't intend to waver on this, give up on this, and we believe also with DECA, we had advances here in market share, but the market is slightly more different. With sanitary ware, we have a huge competitor that divides the market with us, with metals also, but they're all operating very well. So in the competition front, I'm not afraid. Duratex is well prepared. We have very competitors that we do respect, but we want to build our history, our story, and we're going towards differentiation. Our vision is the one. There is a concept here that we've talked a lot, which is a concept where we have more prestigious brands with design, differentiated products, but with scale. So we have a lot of opportunity to migrate the DECA portfolio, going towards more high-end product. With wood, we're investing. It was mentioned here. We recently invested 50 million reais in a new line, perhaps the greatest installed line for wood panels in Brazil. And this will start second quarter next year, second semester, always going for the differentiation. So we have room to grow here strongly. And this obviously can improve our margins. So we still believe, even if we consider a scenario with volumes that are similar to what we have now, price, I can talk about price. It will depend on the conditions. I would say that we were able to recover price. We are doing very specific adjustments to recover from the inflation. Adjustments are being done here in November in the different units. But let's consider, with these price levels, maintain our strong points in marketing. Certainly we have the conditions to improve results with a better mix, with gains in efficiency, because we're working with fuller plants. This is the path we want to continue with. So in the second part of your question, I don't know, perhaps next year. I'm very optimistic. If we have, for example, parting from a price level we have now, we will have a good situation, and we will be able to foresee a scenario before us. We still foresee low inflation, where all these adjustments are being done now, and we will have the conditions to transfer this inflation, to work with better prices. But price is the market. Market is going to dictate that, and we are prepared to compete here. But still, I'm very cautious. We at Duratex, we are conservative. Generally, we try to work very cautiously, but we are optimistic because we know the work we've been doing, the work we've been doing with the client and what we have delivered. So I do believe that we can consider a very positive, competitive scenario. Antonio, is it possible to go back to Leonardo's questions to talk about financial return? And then here we have a question with regards to wood. Luis Henrique Wittert from Solidus, he is very interested in this panel market, and we're very anxious waiting to see this launch for next year. I was just imagining it could be now, right? Because we really want to refurbish the home and everything. So he asks if it is possible to talk to us about the share in the fourth quarter in the panels market. Do you see a lack of wood risk in the short term because of the demand? And if you can talk about financial returns. I'm sorry, I didn't understand his name. Luis Henrique from Solidus. Luis Henrique, just to add to Leonardo's questions, you can see the returns. As I said, we hope to work with the fourth quarter. I think that we can have results in terms of margin very similar to the third quarter, and perhaps some improvements because some other fuller prices. In the third quarter, we have a huge demand, so we accepted all the orders. We have a lot of orders in the wood portfolio. We have this all the way to the end of the year, Deca 2, where we have price, we committed to price, which we have to honor. So we have a situation, I would say, that is very positive vis-a-vis this scenario. I believe that we can work with margins expectations. We've been doing this work. Iso mentioned this. We've been talking about them increasing margins. Margins, either you touch in volume, price, or cost. For us, normally it's costs and productivity, and we've been working this. This a representative part of this margin. In this quarter, we managed to offset many input inflation impacts that emerged, and we were able to offset this with productivity costs. So I would say that for the next period, we certainly will be able to continue expecting. I don't have any margin drop forecast in the horizon, so we're going to work here and trying to improve things. Now we go to the next question. We have with us live connected Thiago Ogea from Goldman Sachs. Good morning. Can you hear us, Thiago? Good morning. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you for this event. Congratulations for the results. With all these wonderful numbers in this quarter, I have more long-term strategic type of question. The first one, insisting with Antonio's point with regards to the panels competitive environment. This has always been marked by competitiveness, a low barrier with the new entrants, and now the industry is all working full capacity with price increases. So I would like to know better, have a better vision with regards to this this competitive environment. It can grow here. And how do you see recent price increases in the sector? The possibility of remaining competitive here.
Tiago, a sua transmissão, a sua conexão está cortando. Por gentileza, repita a primeira pergunta antes de você fazer a
Tiago, can you please repeat your questions because it was cut? My first question has to do with the competitive environment in the wood panels sector. The sectors were operating full capacity, and it has always been very competitive with low barrier of the entrance for new entrants. So how do you see this in the next 2 or 3 years? If recent price increases can stay, or will there be new price increases in the wood panel sector? Second, with regards to capital allocation, we saw an important reduction here. Today, the company has a net debt EBITDA below, and without many new projects. You have a pulp project, but you have no other new project here. So what are you thinking with regards to the allocation of capital for 21, 22? Do you see new projects in the horizons through dividends? How do you imagine capital allocation for the company? Thank you. Thank you very much for your questions. With regards to the first part, I've already mentioned price will be given with regards to market conditions. I believe that the competitive environment is healthy. At this moment, there's a super demand here. So the question that was done even before, there might be even lack of wood panels in the market. You might see this in some sectors. More commodity type products can certainly be scarce, specifically in the retail sector for carpentry. It's very, very, very hot at the moment. So we're working this by reprogramming things. We have a portfolio for a long time now, and the chain as the whole is, there's a lack of supplies. So our clients maintains a certain level of stocks. It dropped drastically, and today many people are working without stocks. So I believe that certainly we have a good cycle, all the way that we can replenish this in the chain with price. You said that the wood panel sector doesn't have many barriers for entrance. I don't see as this. The first base you need to have for this sector, you need to have sustainable forests. So you can have entrance. If a person builds a plant, the plant is a product, right? If you have money, you go there, you buy the plant. But to keep it with competitive costs, that is difficult. So we've seen in this period, well before the pandemic, in the last 3 or 4 years, you're going to have capacities that we don't see is sustainable in terms of cost effectiveness, efficiency here. We have something that is sustained for the long term because we have our own plants for all forests for the operations, and they're very well located. So once there is a recoup of the market, once things become more difficult, we believe that we have the competitiveness, we have the differential competitive with regards to most of our competitors. Also, we have some competitors that have very good conditions. I would say that if we go to the ceramic tile sector, we can see more efficient competitors and less efficient competitors. The competition is here. We're going we're trying to do our best here. We want to do our best, and we can be sustainable. With regards to Deca, we have solid competitors, but we believe in our strategy, which begins to show results now, and everything is very sustainable. So the plan discussed by Marcelo, which was this 3-year plan, now we have in the second year, and we see very important results. With regards to the future, our leverage is low. We are going to get to the end of the year at an even lower leverage than this, I'm sure, and we are prepared to grow, and we are we're doing an internal study discussion with the shareholders and board members as to how to allocate this capital, because if I have a low interest rate scenario, I can work more, I can use more leverage here. It would be more reasonable to do this. So I am below 2, and I could work in a more leveraged way. So the question, are you prepared for the acquisition? Yes, but it needs to happen. You have to have opportunities. We have the mapping, we have the M&A sector. Haddad is always looking at this. I involve myself personally here too. We have some opportunities that we will analyze. I see that recently part of this market euphoria has led to some target potentials. For example, many, I believe, are not sustainable. So we're going to be very careful when we do acquisitions. But Duratex wants to grow, and I believe we can grow in an organic way with new companies. What are the sectors? We are very transparent with regards to this. We are very interested in this whole Deca world and ceramic investments. I think that this is a asset-light process. Also with woods, we have the development of our project in the Northeast. We have interesting alternatives, and we're going to work this very carefully. If we do not have the opportunity to do an acquisition now, of course, we will consider dividends. We can pay more dividends. It might be a short-term solution, but in the long term, the idea is to grow our shareholders, and they want growth, not only pay more dividends. Also, there is a part that we are analyzing. In another 15 to 20 days, we're going to have a big meeting with shareholders where we will study internal alternatives. We have very interesting projects that involve the automation of sanitary, where we have projects to add value in wood, ceramic tiles projects, several projects that where we can allocate part of this capital to invest organically and grow in terms of profitability. So we're going to do a balance here. Maybe we can pay more dividends, but we can also be prepared for the right moment to have a whole new business and allocate more capex at this moment where cash generation was just extraordinary. The big event this year was cash generation. Perhaps we can allocate more capex in new projects and projects, for example, in our own businesses. Together with us is live is Isabela Vasconcelos from Bradesco Bank. Good morning, Isabela. Welcome. So what is your question or comment? Good morning. Can you hear me? Thank you very much. Antonio, in reality, I would like to follow up some comments you made before. First has to do with the stocks level in the chain. You mentioned that nothing was normalized yet. Still, they were not normalized. You mentioned that the Duratex stocks are at historical levels and very low levels. So I want to know how these how these stocks are in the chain, and in your point of view, how long will it take for them to be normalized? That is my first question. The second question has to do with growth and your idea to become increasingly a one-stop shop and your growth, organic and inorganic growth evaluation. Are you still studying new partnerships or go into new segments via partnerships, segments you don't work in directly? So these are my two questions. Thank you very much, Isabella, for your question. With regards to stock levels, I would like to link this with the prior question. At this moment, we are working with a very optimized capital structure. We, in fact, have very low working capital because our stocks are low. So we foresee growth here, a normalization here. This has to take place. Given the conditions, the demand conditions we have, I do not imagine that stocks during the chain, all through the chain, and Duratex stocks will normalize before the first semester next year. It is difficult because stock levels are low, so we're giving priority to selling to our clients. So that's why we have this gradual recoup. This will allow us to continue with a very optimized working capital and to to replenish all these stocks. I believe the clients themselves will wait to see what happens here, what's happening with the pandemic, what's going to happen in the market. I think everybody's going to be more cautious here in terms of stocks recovery. So I believe that this is going to happen during the first quarter semester next year. And also, we've come to a level where clients will work with less stock than they worked before the pandemic, because they also learned to work in a different way. Second part of your question, once again, you're looking to the future, looking forward, new possibilities. As I said, we have the possibility of having new business. Also, we have the possibility to extend our actions in our current businesses here. I believe, Isabella, that we are beginning a very positive Duratex cycle. We are preparing. We have several fronts. During the pandemic, I separated the team in two parts, one smaller but very specialized, and everybody that was taking care of stores and selling, producing in plants. I separated a whole team to think of Duratex in the future. At the end of July, around the 30th of July, we had a board meeting where we did not talk about COVID once. We talked only about the future of the company, how we were going to work, how we were going to change. So this was a very positive agenda here. We have very structured plans. We have several projects vis-a-vis this, with regards to this one-stop shop concept. We have just launched the marketplace for DECA. We would do this for other scenarios. And we're also preparing some more structural arrangements that are important, and we should disclose this very soon. And we're preparing the company to capture these opportunities better. Thiago Ogea wants to add to a comment here. And I want here to stress a question about Icarus Soares Fernandes' question. He's an investor. He wants to know more about wood. He wants to know about the main contributions with regards to the lean structure for the third quarter. Thiago, you are with us. Can you hear us? Would you like to add to your question? Thank you. I just would like to go back to what Antonio talked about leverage, that he would be more comfortable with higher leverages because of the low level of interest rates in the country. Antonio, can you tell us what do you think is a more adequate leverage level for the company? And second, going back to acquisitions, if you contemplate a merge of the metals part with the ceramics part at Deca, Secrisa, Ceusa, do you believe that one of the paths would be a greater integration of these two units? Thank you. Yes, you're very, very updated, very on time with your question. So, I forgot the name of the investor. Ícaro Soares Fernandes. Ícaro. He mentions, it's very interesting, Ícaro is looking at the company very closely because he talks about the lean manufacturing work that Henrique Marcondes and his team has promoted with wood, and very strongly, and this happens at Deca too. As I said, I would say that 50% at least of the positive result we have today comes from this internal part, not only demand. Demand is very relevant, of course, but this comes from this internal work where we work with costs and productivity. So obviously, we have to be sure to be the best cost and productivity company in the market. And then the conditions is going to be given by the market, the volume, if you're going to have room for price or not. But you have to part from the basis that you're best in costs. You're the most competitive in cost in the long term. So this is an important answer. Going back to your question with regards to leverage levels, I have always mentioned, and years before, that even considering a higher capital cost in the last 3 or 4 years, I believe that the leverage level of around 2 would be very healthy for a company such as Duratex with long-term projects in this scenario. Considering that interest rates has dropped, capital costs have increased, improved. Today we have capital supply for the long term. I would say a number between 2 and 3 can be administered in a routine manner. This would be an interesting number, but of course, if you have an important project that is strategic, demanding at a first moment to increase this leverage to 3, 3.5, this could happen. But because of a project, if we do not have a project, or if we are working with a normal level, I would say that between 2 and 3, depending on the circumstances, how much Haddad can work with. Today, we believe we're going to have success in stretching our debt profile with better conditions. I don't know if Haddad wants to add to this, but I believe that no doubt a little more than 2, between 2 and 3, depending on the financing conditions and the quality of the projects that we have. Haddad, or can we continue? Just to reinforce what Antonio said, we have to work this leverage level in a gradual manner. We will determine the best condition, the best term for our debt, or deadline for our debt. Anything between 2 and 3 is a very adequate number. Now, I forgot to answer a question part of a question.
Sim, a gente
Yes,
vislumbra uma
we
integração maior
do
entre
see
revestimentos
a
cerâmicos
greater
e deca.
integration
Vocês vão ouvir falar
between
isso.
ceramic tiles and deca, and very soon you will hear about this. Now we're coming to the end of our transmission. We still have some comments and questions. If we can't answer all of them in this online transmission, they will be sent afterwards. All of them will be answered. I want to go back to Jonathan Brand from the United States. He contributed with his question, first question, and he asked two questions. So this is a good moment to address the second theme that he asks about. He wants you to talk about ESG, that is a global trend. What are the ESG priorities for the company?
Bastante oportuno
It would be very timely to call Daniel. Daniel, our director, that is very associated to sustainability, has actively participated here. Daniel, you can answer the question, please.
Estamos numa fase muito
So we
propícia
are
para
in a
tratar o
very
tema, até
good
por uma
moment
razão
to address this
interessante que
theme.
o propósito ele
And
está
even for a
todo
very
revisitado. Acho que
interesting
vocês viram a
reason,
apresentação até da
everything has
estratégia de
been
tecnologia
revisited. You
e de
saw the
inovação.
technology
E
and
estamos nesse
innovation
exato momento fazendo
strategy
toda uma revisitação do nosso posicionamento de
presentation.
sustentabilidade,
We're revisiting our
fazendo com que ele
sustainability
seja cada vez mais
position,
conectado a esse
allowing it to
propósito.
be more
Aliás, propósito
connected
que
to this
impacta
purpose, which
positivamente
in
a
fact
vida de
positively
milhões de
impacts
brasileiros
the
e
lives of
latino-americanos,
millions of Brazilians
através
and
das
Latin
soluções para
Americans
melhor viver que a
through
empresa,
solutions.
enfim, oferece, né?
Solutions that the company offers,
Proveniente desses três
and coming from
maravilhosos
these
negócios que nós
three
temos.
wonderful businesses that we
Eu
have.
diria que dos
I would
pontos que
say
está sendo
that
muito
one
central
of the
nesse
points
nosso
that is
posicionamento
fundamental in
de
this positioning
sustentabilidade
in terms of
em revisitação
sustainability
é o tema do carbono, né?
is
Que eu diria que hoje
carbon. I would
das
say
grandes conquistas
that one of the
que
great
o grupo
conquests,
teve
our
ao longo
great
desses anos,
conquests
a Duratex
in
pode se
victories
orgulhar
in
de
these
se
years. Duratex can be very
posicionar como uma
proud
empresa
to
que tem uma
say that it
pegada
is a company
positiva nesse
that
sentido, ou
has a very
seja,
positive
toda a
footprint
geração
in this
do
sense.
CO2
All the generation of
proveniente de nossas
CO2
operações
coming
industriais
from our
é
industrial
mais do que
operations
absorvida
is
pelos
more than
negócios
absorbed
florestais. E
by the forest
vocês devem ter
businesses.
notado que
So you might have
grande
noticed
parte da
that
evolução
a great
estratégica da
part
empresa,
of the
de fato,
strategic
foi no
evolution of the
sentido de
company
crescer
was
o portfólio
in the sense of
de soluções
growing
naquilo que
the
tem
portfolio for
mais a ver
solutions,
com o consumidor final,
which
nas nossas
with things
marcas
that has more to
B2C.
do with end
Podemos ver aí a
consumers, our
Portinari, a própria
B2C brands,
Ceusa, né?
Portinari,
E que
for
são
example, and
geradoras.
Ceusa, and they
E
generate,
sempre vem a
they are
pergunta, como é que
generators.
fica
So you always have the
esse
question,
equilíbrio entre o CO2
how is this
gerado
balance
e o
between the
CO2 absorvido?
CO2
Então, um dos grandes
generated
pontos
and
que nós
CO2
executivos
absorbed?
temos
So
convicção
one of the points that
que
we
esse
executives
posicionamento ele deve
are
se
sure
manter
of is that this
equilibrado
position
e
should
de maneira
remain
positiva,
balanced.
né?
In a
Então, esse
very
vai ser dos temas
positive
centrais
sense.
do nosso
So this is going to be one of
reposicionamento,
the
estratégia de
main
sustentabilidade
themes of our
para os próximos anos,
sustainability
né? E
strategic
também
positioning for the
enaltecer,
next
né,
years.
toda
And
a
also we
nossa
would like to
força-tarefa
highlight
no que
our
diz
task
respeito a
force with
reforçar
regards
outros
to
valores que o
reinforcing
nosso
other
portfólio de
values
soluções
our
traz
solutions
tanto para
portfolio
o
has
consumidor, mas
for
para
the
a sociedade
consumer
como um todo,
and
né?
also
E
society as a whole.
através
So through
da proposta de valor dos nossos
the
produtos, a
value
gente
proposal of
pode
our
constatar
products,
que a Duratex ela
we
traz
can
bem-estar,
see
né,
that Duratex
impacto
offers well-being,
e saúde, né,
impact,
para
and
as
health
pessoas de maneira geral, né?
to all the people in
Principalmente
general.
em tempo de pandemia, a
Mainly
gente pode notar
during a
a
pandemic, we can
importância, né,
see
da
the
higiene pessoal,
importance
né, da
of personal
saúde das pessoas em
hygiene,
seus
the
ambientes,
health of
estarão
people
cada
in their
vez mais
environments.
conectados com seus
This is
lares
increasing, you know,
e
they're
todos os nossos
increasingly
produtos, de uma
more
certa
connected
maneira,
to their
eles
homes, and
trazem
our products
aspectos
do
ligados, né, tanto à
offer
saúde física como
aspects
à mental
linked to
dos nossos consumidores
mental and
e da
physical health
sociedade.
of our consumers
E
and
também
society as a whole.
ponto
Also
chave,
another
né, e aí
point that is
falando
key,
pouco sobre as questões
now
sociais,
talking about
todo
social
esse novo
issues, all this
reposicionamento da nossa
new
estratégia de sustentabilidade,
repositioning
ele visa
of our
também
sustainability
conectar os nossos
strategy
esforços
aims to connect our
sociais
efforts, our
com também
social
esse propósito,
efforts,
né? Então essa
and
grande
also
conexão
with this
pode fazer
purpose.
com que a gente
So this
inclusive
connection can lead us
acelere
to
iniciativas
speed up
que fazem
initiatives
com que o próprio DNA da
that
Duratex
allows Duratex
Duratex
DNA to create a better impact to society as a whole. And this is has become visible, all the battles we took on during the year from during this pandemic 2020. You can see the positioning we had together, all the initiatives,
colocar em prática aí
to put into practice hospitals. And, this is an example of how we are approximating our social actions with a purpose. Some of the hospitals that we participate in, they were a series of actions, the results of a series of actions, how we could give support to very innovative companies. Brasil or Cubo, which is a company accelerated by the scale-up projects. They were able to build hospitals in 33 days, a challenge of the traditional constructive methods, and Duratex participated through donations, allowing these hospitals not only to help, but help us in such a hard situation that impacted millions of Brazilians and human beings in the world, but where you can remain as a legacy aspect for society, not only for society, but also became a reference for other hospitals that might emerge after the pandemic. So, this is innovation and actions going together. I would say that for next year, we're going to have a lot more novelties here. These first efforts show the priorities of our SDG fronts. Thank you very much. I would like to use this moment to thank and recognize the participation and commitment of the other executives which entered our meeting: Henrique Haddad, Henrique Marcondes, Marcelo Iso, and Daniel Lopes Franco, Digital Innovation IT Head. Thank you very much for your participation. Now I would like to give you the floor. Because of the time, we're going to the conclusion of our online transmission. Please just summarize, make your final comments. You have the word, Antonio. I think we have even gone over our time. I would like to thank my team, Menegon, Daniel, Iso, Marcondes, Haddad, our Human Resources Director, the other directors, for the wonderful work that we've been able to give until now. And also, I would like to stimulate those that have any questions. Please send them through our IR team, Natasha, or directly to our executives. You have the contacts of all the executives, and you can send your questions directly to them, and this will be very welcome. I would like to thank you for this wonderful audience that we had. Thank you very much, all of you. Congratulations, Duratex, for this results meeting. Antonio, for your work and your team's work. Thank you very much for your participation, online participation. Continue with Duratex. Now you can continue interacting with the company, asking questions, suggesting, making comments. Every participation is very welcome. Those of you that didn't have questions answered, it's okay. They will answer your questions and you will have all the answers that you would like to have. I hope that you have liked to spend this morning with us, to have learned more about this Brazilian company with almost 70 years of history. Duratex lead in all segments it works in and made this event to present its results and talk about the future to all of you. Thank you very much. Antonio, thank you very much for your invitation, for trusting my work, and I hope we can see each other again, celebrating all the good results and victories. Good luck to all of you. Have a wonderful end of the year, and I would like to greet all the audience to see you in the next meeting.